Good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center.
Good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center.
So we're doing things a little differently
It's
this
stereo.
month. We're tag teaming this month, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this plays out. I think you all will enjoy it.
Oh,
What's up?
I woke up this morning and I had this song, and I was like, you abandoned me. Love don't live here anymore. Just a vacancy. Love don't live here anymore. Love don't live here. Love don't live here.
Here's the thing. When we talk about these love songs, you abandoned me. Love don't live here. Just a vacancy. Love don't live here anymore. What I know to be true is that love is just like the air we breathe. Love is always here.
Yes.
Love is always available. But we sing these songs, we get all hung up in Rolls Royce or the Faith Evans, Mary J. Blige version, whichever you want. Singing these songs, oh, that's my jam. And then you wonder why you're by yourself. Love don't live here anymore as you're affirming that truth in song. Because when we put something to music, it actually makes it a little more powerful. But you know, I was thinking about our brother Bruno Mars. He's singing in the Super Bowl tonight, right? And he has that song, I catch a grenade for you, throw my hand on the blade for you, jump in front of a train for you, you know I'd do anything for you. Oh, I would go through all this pain, take a bullet straight to my brain. Yes, I would die for you, baby, but you wouldn't do the same.
Right, I would not do the same. Love is not war.
Yes.
Love is peace. Love is unity. Love brings all things together. Love sees all, knows all, is all.
Yes.
And how many times have we thought everything in this relationship is about a battle, and we both end up with scars? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of that kind of love. Right? I'm tired of that kind of love. Love does not require sacrifice. And as the Course in Miracles says, anytime that there is suffering and sacrifice, these are the gifts which the ego blesses all unions. Suffering and sacrifice are the gifts that the ego blesses a union with. So anytime you're in that place of suffering or sacrifice, you're creating a blessed union with pain. No, that is not what love is.
Yes, yes.
And that's what we're here to talk about this month. What is love? Love is not about sacrifice. Love is not about taking a bullet to the brain. Love is none of those things. And it's a beautiful idea and a beautiful thing. Okay, that is a great song. It feels good. Yeah, that's how love should be. No. So how do you write your own love song from a place of empowerment, from a place of unity, from a place of knowing who and whose you are? We thought about that and we said, there was another song that came up for us. Love the one you're with. And not, Crosby, Stills and Nash, love the one you're with, that says, I'm going to just love this person because they're not really who I want, but because I need a substitute in this moment. We're talking about loving the one you're with and asking and reimagining that question to say, who is the one I'm always with? Me.
Yes.
I'm always with me.
That's right.
And so I always love the one I'm with. And if I don't love the one I'm with, then it's time to figure out how to love the one I'm with. And it sometimes feels selfish, right? We've been conditioned to think that love hurts and that it's all about sacrifice. But it's not. There's no growth and there's no expansion of the divine in you if it's all stifled in sacrifice.
That's right.
Love is not about that. What's it about, Pastor?
What was interesting to me, as we were thinking about this idea of loving yourself, loving the one you're with, what I began to see in my mind as we were preparing for this message is that I think many of us have what I call a Jesus complex. Now, what's interesting about what a Jesus complex is that I was taken back to the scripture in John 15, verses 12 through 13. This is the only place that we hear this in the four Gospels. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Beautiful. But this second part, we only find this in one book, written to one specific community. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Now we know and understand from the story of Jesus, we believe that, or have been taught that a man had to die and sacrifice his life for all. And so what I believe is that in relationships, because that is the prevailing wisdom in the land, even those of us who may not have been specifically raised Christian, there's this idea that somehow sacrificing for other people is the most noble way to be. And so we move into our relationships as our own personal Jesus is saying, oh, I love you, baby, and so I'm going to get on the cross for you. And sacrifice my well-being, sacrifice my wholeness, sacrifice my peace of mind for the sake of this love, this idea of love that I believe is pain. And it's so interesting to me. If you really think about it, we have a Jesus complex. Thinking that we need to be Jesus or a savior to our spouse, our partner, our loved one, our significant other. But you're getting on the cross, crucifying yourself over and over again. I believe the Course says something about that.
Right, the Course in Miracles talks about this too. It takes exception with this idea that we have to have a crucifixion story in our lives. It says that this is like the last useless journey. And by useless, it means unnecessary. There is no need to get on the cross for anyone. And by doing this, we diminish who we are, our essence, our all, to take this place of the crucifixion. And I want to read this part to you because I think it's important. It is really and merely a reenactment of the separation, the loss of power, the futile attempt of the ego at reparation, meaning that the ego thinks that it's separate from God and therefore in need of some kind of punishment. And that's its idea. I'll stick to this story of the crucifixion. I'll stick to this story of separation. And this is my way of paying penance to that. Because finally, the crucifixion of the body and of death is the ultimate sacrifice, right? In this mind of the ego. Such reparations are endless until that they are voluntarily given up. Until you voluntarily say, I no longer have to sacrifice. God is not requiring that of me. Do not make the pathetic error of clinging to the old rugged cross. Now, we've heard that song. I don't know if you grew up in church. I heard it. I cling to the old rugged cross. We don't have to do that. The only message of the crucifixion is that we came here to overcome the cross. So if you focus on any part of that whole Jesus story, it's on the resurrection.
Yes.
It's on bringing the light. It is on coming into that center of atonement. It is on forgiveness. Not hanging on the cross for anyone or anything. Because that will not make you greater in the mind of God. There's nothing that can change your greatness in the mind of God.
Yes.
It is ever prevailing.
Yes.
Always in place.
Yes.
Nothing can change it. And until you then freely give this up, you'll continue to feel the pain in your relationships and in your own personal life. Now, this is not about guilt, like, oh, guilt, or, oh, yeah, I guess I am still on the cross. It's about awakening and realizing that in this moment, everything is a mistake that can be corrected. Corrected in this very moment. Oh, I'm getting down on my knees, I'm taking a bullet through the brain, I'm thinking that I have to suffer or that love is not here because there's not another. Oh, I just put myself back up on the cross. Time to get down and really get down in my life.
Yes, yes.
It really is time to take our bed, as Jesus said, and walk in the light of truth and of peace and of power. Because the only one keeping you on that cross is the thoughts that you possess about that. So it means what? It can change in this moment.
Now, maybe if you're like me, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, this is powerful. We're talking about, wow, when I think or try to sacrifice for my relationship, I'm actually putting myself on the cross. I can recognize this Jesus complex that we have all done at different points in our lives. It's like, wow, okay, I hear you. But are you telling me I'm supposed to be selfish? Right? Are you telling me, I hear what you're saying, but now it sounds like you're saying I'm just supposed to do me, right? And just negate everybody else, but I love this person, or when I think about my past relationships, it was sincere, my intentions were good, because I loved and cared about that person. And what it took me to when I thought about that, it took me actually to Think and Grow Rich, which is a place that you wouldn't think that we would talk about in this context, but it took me to the chapter on faith. And there's something that Napoleon Hill says that I think is powerful, that I want to use this idea and then we're going to reimagine it as we look at relationships. What it says in Think and Grow Rich is, I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. Now I'll read it differently. I fully realize that no relationship can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no relationship which does not benefit all whom it affects.
Right.
So here's the deeper, the wisdom understanding. We're not asking you to be selfish in the sense of honoring your small self or your human self and denying others. But what we know to be true, that on the deeper level, there's actually a possibility that in your relationship, it can mutually benefit all. And so you seek the solutions, you seek to be the type of person that, no, I'm not going to put myself on the cross, nor my partner on the cross. But there's a way for both of us to run free and be in ease and breathe easily, because I honor myself and I honor my other, my partner. It's very powerful. And so, I was thinking again, when we think about, for a minute, if we just go back, think about the transactions we've made in our lives, the agreements we made in relationships, where verbal or non-verbal, where it didn't mutually benefit all, right? Because again, if you catch a grenade, your hand is getting blown off, right? If you take the bullet, you're the one that's dying, right? And metaphorically speaking, we've experienced that, where we took the loss. We were hurt. We didn't win. But the wisdom teaching and love itself is teaching that it's possible for everybody to win. And that's the place that we want to get to, that it's not about being selfish in this negative sense, but actually it's being selfish in the larger sense. I'm just remembering this. And actually I think this was a teaching from Abraham, if you're familiar with Esther and Jerry Hicks. Abraham speaks to this a lot, that through Esther says that really being selfish, we should be selfish. But what she speaks to is that we're talking about self with a capital S. When you understand who and what you are, and we talk about this all the time, that we are the magnificence of God, that we've done nothing wrong, that we remain as God created us, that there's a larger self that we are, that we cannot see, that we have access to. And so, if we're honoring our wholeness, that larger self, if we're honoring our perfection, that larger self, if we're honoring the love that we are, the peace, the bliss that we are, if we're honoring our peace of mind, and being selfish in that sense, that's the best way you can be. Why? Because if you're whole, if you're complete, if you're 100%, then you bring your wholeness, your completeness, and your 100%ness to the relationship. Right? And then your partner can benefit from you being whole. You want to say something like that?
No, I think that was perfect.
Amen.
Oh,
So it is. So it is. I want to say this. Because, again, this idea of wholeness, many people teach that, I've heard it said a few ways, that, a relationship is 50-50. And I believe that's actually horrible advice. Because it means that you're only bringing 50% of yourself to the relationship. But again, what would happen if you brought 100% of yourself to the relationship? So that means that you have to honor yourself. That means you have to take time out for yourself. We're going to talk a little bit more about that type of thing next week on some specifics. But, right, that means you have to allow time for you to recharge yourself and fill yourself up. So again, you can bring your 100%. But maybe that's why we have this idea of, and we put ourselves on the cross and we think that love is pain and love is sacrifice, because the prevailing wisdom is 50-50. So I'm bringing 50% of myself, the other part is dead.
And even if you're not in a relationship, so
right,
you're in relationship with you, love the one you're with. And if you're only allowing yourself 50% of your joy, 50% of your possibilities,
yes,
50% of the peace that you deserve, you're not living a full life. And without living a full life, there is no room for anyone else. What happens when you bring 50% is resentment. It brings resentment to any situation, whether it's on your job. If that job is not serving you, then you're still bringing 50%. Even if you're giving 100%, you feel like you're being robbed, as Yolanda says. So the realization is, am I bringing 50% or am I bringing 100% of myself? Am I allowing my glory to shine in the situation? As a single, as a couple, in any kind of relationship or transaction. How do we get to that point where we're loving self with a capital S? How do we get to that point? What do we do? We thought about this. We were going back and forth. Okay, well, it could be this, this, and this, and then we sat in silence and realized it was these things. Forgive yourself for the past, number one. The past is gone. This moment is fresh. This moment is perfect. In this moment, I see your wholeness. Debbie Ford said it this way: if we were meant to drag the past around with us, it would be called the present, not the past. Think about that. Think about where you're holding on to some past idea. Even in a relationship, you're like, oh, I made those mistakes. Mistakes are things that can be corrected. They're not errors in the sense that we think of sin as something that's being held, a list of things that we have to account for. They're mistakes that can be corrected when we choose again. So in this moment, think about something in a relationship as a couple or in a relationship with yourself that you still have not forgiven. I don't know about you, but it only takes me a second. It only takes me a second to remember something that I've done to myself. Not loving myself, not seeing my glory and my innocence and my magnificence. Take a minute. Close your eyes. Think about something that you perceive as a mistake. And I want you to say these words out loud because that's the only way the mind will hear what the Spirit is trying to communicate. I forgive myself. Say it with me.
I forgive myself
for believing I had to sacrifice for love. Let's say it again. I forgive myself for believing I had to sacrifice for love. Let's try this one. I forgive myself for believing that love was supposed to hurt. One more time. I forgive myself for believing that love was supposed to hurt.
It does. Wow. Clear it out. Because I sense it and I feel it in the room. We know, okay, I want to love myself first. I want to love that capital S. First we start with forgiving ourselves. Past is over. It can touch me not, of course, the miracle says. And then we move on. What is the next thing we must do after we have forgiven ourselves? Now we must learn to practice self-compassion. And what does that look like to practice self-compassion? Well, the first thing is let go of comparison. Now, what's interesting about that, this is prevailing wisdom within our society. Comparison happens all of the time. We were talking about it last night. We were watching the Grammys last Sunday, and all of the award shows, the biggest thing is about what did different people have on, and the whole idea of competition. All of this comparison gets us in a lot of trouble, right? Because sometimes we're willing to go to certain lengths and put ourselves in painful situations because we think we don't measure up to something else. Right? Maybe we think that, we have to be a certain way for our partner to love us. We have to act a certain way, comparing ourselves to other people, other situations, and other things. And then because of that comparison, we create a lot of pain for ourselves. Now, also, self-compassion looks like this: making choices that allow you to breathe. Right? So this takes us back again to I will engage in no relationship that does not mutually benefit all whom it affects. Because again, normally we'll make those choices and it feels so small in the moment, I know it, like, oh, it's all right, I'll just do this. It feels so small. But if you stop and take the time to look at it, it's like, oh, this is going to create pain and tension. And I'm actually going to get really resentful and angry. If I play it out in my mind, I can see it. Don't make the choice. Self-compassion says you deserve to breathe. So I'm going to allow myself to breathe. And then the other side of it is when you don't allow yourself to breathe, then you're not breathing, which means you're not living. And again, then you can't be there and be present for your partner in the way that you desire to be. Now the last one is the one I love. When we practice self-compassion, the other thing that we really have to do is let God be God. Let the universe be the universe. Let the all be the all. What does that mean? Well, many times we may see our partners or our loved ones going through some things and we feel like we're supposed to be the ones to step in and save them. But what we know to be true is that there's an infinite intelligent universe that supports and holds and carries and comforts and takes care of us all. Before you got here, the world was taken care of, moving along perfectly. When you leave, the world will be taken care of, moving along perfectly. Let God be God. Let the universe be the universe. Let the source be the source. Let the foundation of all that takes care of us all, in whose arms we live, move, and have our being in, let it handle the situation. And when we do that, from that place of surrender, then if there's something for you to do, the infinite intelligent universe will guide you perfectly through your intuition and tell you what to do. But so many times we want to be God. We want to take over the scenario. We want to take over the situation with good intentions. And I must say that, again, because this is not a shame or blame or you're wrong for doing this. Our intentions are always good. But of course, we know the wisdom that the road to destruction is often is often paved, right? With good intentions. We know that. And then we have the third choice.
And this one has been difficult for me at times in my life. Choose to love yourself in every way. Every way. When you look in the mirror, when you don't look in the mirror, when your hair is not looking good, when your money looks funny, love yourself in every way. Because when you start to shift that focus, that awareness to I'm loving me, I'm loving the presence of God in me, I'm loving the presence of God that is moving through my life, I'm in appreciation for everything I see, and I'm in alignment with everything I see. There's nothing left but to allow God to be God. There's nothing left but to stand in the awareness that I'm forgiven. There's nothing left but to love with a capital S and be loved with a capital S. To attract, to be in that vibration of truth. Love yourself in every way. Because that's how God, the universe, the infinite, whatever you want to call it, loves you. Without conditions, without reservations. Love just loves. And if love is the thing that created this extension of itself in these individualized expressions, then all it knows how to really do is love. And anytime there's a block in that, it is because we place it there in our minds. Let it go. Love yourself in every way. For every decision. Enjoy step into your lives. Love yourself in every way. And I know sometimes it feels weird and strange, but sometimes it really does feel good to love yourself in every way. Align yourself with the vibration of joy. Align yourself with the vibration of light and truth. Follow that path. Because you're on that path with who? You.
Now the thing about this last step, when we talk about choosing to love yourself in every way, the one thing that I want you to understand is that this is the thing that we want to be vigilant for.
Yes.
Because again, when we think about love, we're taught and we learn to be vigilant for that love, to do everything you can to make sure that this relationship works. Do that for yourself, your relationship with yourself. Do everything you can to make that relationship work. And so when you choose to love yourself every day, as you rise each morning in your daily practice, whatever it is, start from that place. I love myself in every way I choose to. And that's the point that you make your decisions from. Now, of course, that requires trusting, that requires allowing. Because the thoughts in your mind will be, well, if I don't do this, how is it going to get done? If I don't show up in this way, how is it going to get done? But if you let God be God, if you trust that the universe will support you as you love yourself first, then it will support you with loving ways to accomplish all.
Yes.
Or someone else will show up to pick up the slack or take care of that thing and you realize you didn't need to do it. But it starts from making the choice to love yourself. Be vigilant. I've said it once before. Become a warrior. For yourself, for your self-care and your self-compassion and loving yourself. And I pray that that the series as a whole really speaks to you, but we got to start with this foundation. We can talk about relationships and, there's lots of advice out there, but what I know to be true is that if you don't start here, if you don't start knowing that you must love yourself, that you actually must put yourself first, and in putting yourself first, you're putting your relationship first. If you don't know that, if you don't start there, then everything else will just, the domino effect, we'll start to run into all of those familiar problems. But what I've come to learn, even when we forget, make the mistake, and we put ourselves back on the cross, as soon as we come back to that remembrance and say, okay, how can I love myself now? I recognize what happened. I forgive myself. How do I love myself now? Given what's happening, everything shifts. New possibilities open up. And that's that idea I was talking about a lot this week as we were working, just that idea of mutually benefit all whom it affects. I think that is so powerful, that idea to think that it's possible to make a choice that benefits both myself and my partner, right? That it's possible. And again, that's love. That's the higher wisdom. Because we know that love encompasses all. Love loves all. And we are in all. And so love is only interested in its entire family. Or God is only interested in making sure that the whole family is taken care of. Not just itself, or not just one person. That's not the intention of the universe. And so, again, it's just my prayer that as you go through this week, that you hold on to this vibration. And we're going to dig a little deeper throughout the week. I don't know if you want to speak to that, but we're going to dig a little deeper. And I'm excited about this.
I know this is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun series because it's going to challenge a little bit the prevailing wisdom, but it's also going to enable you to write a life and an experience that you're proud of, that you find joy in. Write your own love song because you love the one you're with. Start from that place of knowing. And everything else will fall in place. And I can speak to that, and we will speak to that, about our relationship.
Yes.
The successes and the failures.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's good. It's all good. But remember that we're talking this month about writing your own love song and erasing these ideas about hurt and pain and sorrow and separation. Because you cannot be separate from the all. And you cannot be separate from each other, really. So write a love song from that place. And what would it be like to love that way?
So in this moment, I invite everyone to stand. We will close this message with a word of prayer. We just take a breath into our bodies. I love the symbolism of the breath, this air that is free for us to breathe. And it points to the truth of all life, that life is freedom,
Yes.
that life is free, that life is ease. And so, Mother, Father, God, we come together in this moment recognizing, remembering, and realizing that love is the more excellent way, that love wins. And we recognize that it is actually our opportunity here on this earth, in this incarnation, to learn to love the all by loving ourselves first. And so again in this moment we forgive ourselves for those times when we operated from a Jesus complex and put ourselves on the cross and crucified ourselves. We recognize that is the painful path. But we recognize that there is more than one way to live on this earth. We recognize that there is more than one way to think on this earth. And we have experienced the painful way, so we're choosing to walk down the painless path. We're choosing now to walk down the path that gives us freedom. We're choosing now to walk down the path that allows us to breathe. We're choosing to walk down the path that allows you to be the infinite intelligent mind and foundation that you are. We open up our arms and we surrender to the beauty and the power of life that is seeking to support us in loving ourselves. We declare and decree in this moment that we love ourselves, that loving ourselves is the most important thing we can do on this earth because we know who and what the self is. Yes. No, this self is not our flesh and blood, soul clothing that we're wearing, but we understand that the self that we are honoring, the self that we are loving is one with you. It lives in you, moves in you, and has its being in you. The self that we're honoring is the spirit that is in back of all things, the one cause, the one power, the one presence, the one mind, are an individual expression of you. You chose to come into form as us. And so when we love ourselves, we are absolutely loving God. When we love ourselves, we are absolutely loving the universe. When we love ourselves, we are absolutely loving all. And as we love all will prosper. As we love all will benefit. As we love all will be in joy. As we love all will be in bliss. And it is with that awareness, I now pass the prayer.
Mother, Father God, we trust you. We trust in the highest self, the highest intention. Because we know that in the mind of God, in the mind of the infinite, in the mind of pure intelligence, there is only love. And love rules this day. We bring our awareness and our attention to focus on love. To focus on love of self with a capital S. We walk around today realizing that we stand in the awareness of the truth of you, God. We trust you. We trust you moving in our lives. We trust that the obstacles that are here in front of us will be moved. We trust with our whole heart, our whole being. Thank you, Mother, Father God, for the souls assembled today. For I see their path clear. I declare and decree that their path is made smooth by the awareness and the release of anything holding them. Thank you, Mother, Father God, for the ability to trust in this moment, for the ability to surrender and to forgive and to live in love and light.